Welcome, 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 everyone. It's your girl, Lady K, and I am here. I'm your host of the Virtual Roundtable. This is a place where we come together to encourage, to empower, and to shift mindsets in order to provoke change. We're just a group of individuals that love to have real conversation about real life issues with real people. We always have a biblical edge, but we cover an array of topics. And I'm just thankful to have each and every one of you here, because there's a million places you could have been on this evening, but you decided to spend it with us at the Virtual Roundtable. So we're definitely honored. I'm definitely honored to have one of my clients here. And I'll go on with a little introduction shortly, but I'm going to open us up in prayer if you all give me a minute. God, we thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to share on this platform. Thank you for allowing each person to come here. I ask you to bless them in a special way. God, protect their families. If there's any sickness among us, we call for healing right now, even in the extended families. God, we thank you for our children. Thank you for keeping them protected as they go through the school system, letting no hurt, harm, or danger come now their dwelling place, and even keeping us as we go to and fro to work every day. God, we ask you to cover us with your shed blood and hide us behind your cross, that no harm will come our way, and we'll be careful to give you praise, give you honor, and give you glory that is due unto your name, Jesus. We pray, amen.
Amen.
So guys, again, I'm honored to have a client of mine, Officer Frederick R. Wilson III, here with us. I've been blessed to cut 3 generations in their family. I have cut his father, and I cut him, and now his son. And his son, let me tell you, a few years ago, his son, I think, was the one that really taught me another level of patience. I don't hold things back from my clients. I let them know, your child worked me. He came in the other day. He's old, and I hadn't seen him in a little while, and he just started coming back. So he's so mature, and it's interesting just to see how he's grown, and he's a little more calmer. But he was a little sleepy the other day, and he tried to go back to that old stage. I said, no, we're not finna do this. Let me hurry up and get him out of here. I almost thought that I was going back to get me a warehouse job when I was cutting him years ago. Listen, Freddie worked my nerves. I tell him all the time, he worked my nerves. But it's a blessing definitely be able to share with him. His dad is still around the corner, and he's been in law enforcement as well. So one thing I like about Fred is very disciplined and a very humble individual. So I'm going to give you this brief bio of him, and then I'm going to turn it over and let him talk. He loves to talk. He got plenty to say. He has questions, and he's going to open it up for questions as well. So Officer Frederick R. Wilson III have worked in the law enforcement arena for 20 plus years. His law enforcement background includes, but is not limited to, a Santa Monica police officer, Los Angeles County court service officer, and currently working as a federal officer with the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Frederick is also trained and certified as a hostage negotiator by the Federal Bureau of Investigations. He's a father, he's a husband, he's also a chef, and that's just to name a few. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to none other than Officer Frederick Wilson. The floor is yours, sir.
All right. Thank you, Kaya. And first and foremost, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to come to just spread some information with people in the community. And we being law enforcement, we don't get or take this opportunity often enough, in my opinion. Anytime we can, share information or impart some of our knowledge and or wisdom with people in the community, it's to our benefit. And shame on us for not doing it more. And so this opportunity is greatly appreciated. So thank you, and thank you everybody, for tuning in. First and foremost, I just wanted to kind of explain to you guys why this is so important. So why this being, how we should interact, or when we interact with the police, how we should handle these situations. Obviously, we see it in media. We hear about it day in and day out. I'm no different. I hear the good, the bad, the ugly about law enforcement, and I am no different because being a young Black man, I'm only 48. But let me brag a little bit. I am about to retire. I'm close. I can go in a year and a half. So I can't wait. But I'm no different. I do not think that I am different. I can walk out of my house right now and encounter a law enforcement officer, Black, white, any color, and have a situation. And that situation can go from good to bad in seconds. You have seen it. It's very prevalent in society today, right? I mean, we've all seen that. So I do not think that I am excluded or different from anyone, especially being African American. I know that the potential for me to get involved in something if I encounter the police, or if I'm pulled over, or if I see something and I choose to take part in it, I have to be on my P's and Q's. I have to really think about what I do, how I do it, what I say, how I say. Also, I have to think about the eyes that are out there now. That's a growing thing. A growing thing that we didn't used to have to deal with in the same magnitude that we are now, because of cameras, because of Big Brother, because of phones. It's wide open, and it's a good thing. It's God forbid if we did not have those eyes, how many wrongs would not have been right with the shootings and things of that nature. But my goal in tonight is to hopefully not encounter that level. I don't want it to go south. Once you're pulled over, or once you are addressed by an officer, the goal should be to answer and or give him or her the information that they require and be on your way, and as expeditiously as possible and without harm, right? But that's unfortunately not the way it has been going. I am concerned, as I'm sure you guys are. One quick thing: if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me and clarify, get some understanding, because that's what it's all about. I do not want to sit on this chat and just go over it over and over and just be talking and bore you guys to death. So I'm sure that's what would happen. So like I said, my goal today is to give you guys some basics, some do's and don'ts about what to do when you encounter the police, right? Or any law enforcement. It might not be a police officer, it might be a U.S. Marshal, it might be the FBI, it might be the courts in general. Or if you see something and you're just a Joe citizen and you see something and you think it's wrong or right, and what do you do? So and then I want to open it up, and if you guys have questions for me that you may have had a previous incident or are looking for future situations, and I'd love to answer any questions and give you guys some clarity. Okay, so without further ado, so my first biggest thing that I would say is just common sense. Follow the law, man. if you don't break the law, the likelihood of you coming into contact with law enforcement is minimized. It's not foolproof, because a police officer or a highway patrolman might seek you out. But if you're not doing anything wrong, then you can go from there. Right? Anybody have anything with that? Any issues with that? You guys are so lively. So
Not yet. We're listening. We're waiting on you to get on off of that.
all right.
You good though.
Right. So yeah, the biggest thing I would say, be law abiding. Don't break the law, man, if you can help it, right? So if you happen to break the law, which we all do, if you are speeding, say, let's just give an example. If you're speeding and a cop pulls you over and he is, let's just say, spirited, and he seems to be a little aggressive. What do you do? You know, what do you do? Because if you really look at it, only thing you're in control of is your action, your response, how you react to his reaction or how he's confronting you. So if he's in a negative, if he has a negative disposition or she has a negative disposition, in my opinion, the best thing you can do is do what they're asking, as long as it does not infringe upon your rights as a citizen. As long as they're not asking you to do something that you know is wrong. And if they're telling you to get out of your vehicle, or if they're asking to search your vehicle, no matter what your response is, in my opinion, make sure that your response isn't one that is going to escalate things, right? Something that I just saw in I forget the gentleman's name. Was it in it's the case that just, I think they're deliberate. No, it's an ongoing case. It's in court right now. A white female pulls over or is involved in a stop of a young African-American brother. This kid is really what he was. He couldn't have been more than 30. I would say. I don't know the details of the case, but I assume he's pretty young. Then we all know which one I'm talking about, I hope. But the female officer, accidentally, so she alleges, shot the young man with her service pistol, but she said she was trying to use her taser. And it did look like she was remorseful to some extent. But the biggest problem I have with that case is that young man attempted to flee and fight. I personally don't think that he knew the gravity of his actions. I guess he had, or it was reported that he had a warrant. I don't know for what. I believe it was a weapons charge, but a previous weapons charge. But whatever it was, it doesn't matter for our intents and purposes. The biggest thing I see with this case, or any case like it, is when you encounter the police and they're telling you to do something, then you attempt to flee or fight back. Fight them. It puts them in the position to be right if they're wrong. Bigger than that, this young man is obviously not with us anymore. So there is no going back for him. We cannot fight his fight with him in the ground. You know, as law enforcement, as a African American in law enforcement, my thing is, if there's in any position, in any field, in any genre, there is bad, right? Don't give the bad the right to be bad. Make them fight to be bad and win. But if you put yourself in that position, you have made it so much easier for them because it's in question. That's, in my opinion, that should have been a open and shut case for the young man. But when he fought them, that opened it up. Anybody have a comment on that?
I'll chime in.
Please do.
Yeah. Appreciate your your conversation there. But it's hard for me as a young Black man because I've had that experience. The police has harassed me, and I did exactly, what they wanted to do. But the only thing I didn't do was let them search my car because that's my right. I don't have to let you search my car. But, police being police, no offense, but he was looking. I'm a young Black man, in a crown. I look like a dope boy, but I'm in college. I'm a sophomore in college, right?
Okay.
So so
Right.
they looking in my car and they see a Sobe bar, an energy drink bottle, right?
Oh, okay.
So at this point, he has probable cause. So because obviously it's a glass bottle, it looks like a liquor bottle, it's empty. So now he wants to search my vehicle. So sophomore in college, never don't even have a rap sheet. They don't know my name. And so before I knew it, there was 6 cars of police for me. Why are there 6 carloads of police and the K9? And then one of them proceeded to tell me, we're gonna find where the drugs at. I said, well, they're not with me. And he said, we're gonna find where the drugs and the guns at. Well, they're not with me, and I'm not of legal age to be in possession of a weapon. So you won't find it with me. And all the while I have because I went to Gardner-Webb University, I have my student ID on my back window the whole time. And so I'm like, okay, they search my vehicle, strip it down, take everything. When I say everything out of everything, everything out of everything. And it was late at night. Now, mind you, I'm out in the country now. We in the South. So they see me as a whole bunch of white cops for this little old Black boy. So I'm lucky myself. I'm sorry.
Where did this occur? I'm just trying to get a bearing.
North Carolina. It's a rural town called Shelby, North Carolina.
Okay.
And but when I say I had never had any experience with the police like that, they don't even know my name. They didn't know who I was till they ran the tag, and but I still have those feelings towards the police because that happened to me. Like I did what they was wanting me to do. I complied. But yet and still you profiled me and seen me as a dope boy and wanted to find the dope and told me this. So now your dog done scratched my car up. I got, I took a lot of pride in my vehicle. So they done stripped my car. Any man, you mess a man car up, that's fighting,
Right.
But I can't fight the badge. I just got to take it, swallow it, and go home. And that was rough for me. And it still is.
Yeah. There's no explaining that. That's wrong. I mean, straight up. But you are not alone. I'm like I said, I'm 48. So I grew up in I'm sorry, I didn't even give you guys much. She kind of gave you my background. Let me give you guys some background, and then you'll understand why I'm saying this in relation to your situation and your question, kind of. I'm from Inglewood, California. I grew up in LA in the 70s, 80s, and 90s when it was, as we say on the West Coast, cracking. It was hot. You know what I mean? The gang activity was real, and the area that I'm from is heavily populated by Bloods. All my friends and family members are Bloods, but it's funny that a lot of what you said you experienced, I experienced it almost to the letter. I mean, almost to the letter. Obviously, in a different region, different way. I experienced it multiple times. That's what my motivation was to become law enforcement, because I thought what better position as a Black man would it be to help brothers who and sisters who are may or may not be in a bad position? It's worse, in my opinion, when an African American or a sister or brother is involved in any capacity with the police or law enforcement, and they don't see one familiar face, one that looks like you, one that speaks like you, one that's not intimidated by you or fearful of you. So, but I say that to say that I've experienced some of the same stuff, and I can't for the life of me right that wrong. That is that officers or that group of officers, that's their preconceived notions, coming out, spilling out, and becoming unprofessional. I mean, that's all it is. But bigger than that, it can happen to me. It has happened to me as with a badge until I show my badge or my credentials. So I say that to say, when, and hopefully if it will never happen again, but if it were to happen again to any one of you or anyone you know, my thing is, I want you to survive that encounter so that we can right the wrong. How do you survive that encounter? Like you did. They were dead wrong, but you complied enough to get within law, to, get on. They told you that they wanted to search your car. Did they have probable cause because of a Sobe bottle? Face value, yeah. But really, nah, it's a Sobe bottle. It's not alcohol. They didn't smell alcohol. You weren't weaving in and out of traffic. Hopefully you weren't doing
Can I just interject 1 second?
Yeah,
I was
please.
sitting in a parking lot and they were just doing their rounds and shined the light on my car, and the car looked suspicious. So I wasn't doing, I was sitting in my vehicle. No weed, no liquor, no nothing.
Wow. Yeah. And I don't know that area. I don't know what you said, Shelby, North Carolina?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know Shelby, North Carolina, but I do know that the South, it has its own unique challenges. And that goes for us too. On the force, we have to fight our peers to just be just like everyone else in every other form. It does not change because I have these credentials or a badge. So, I am not mistaken or I'm not misled. I don't misinform. It doesn't get better. But the difference is doing things like this, talking, sharing your experiences with other people, showing people that, it's hard for us as men to comply, and it almost feels weak. I've had to do it. I felt like I had been weakened or like I was soft. But, I can't say that there is a way to explain it where it feels good afterwards. There is no silver lining to this. It irks me to my soul to know that there are bad officers out there, but there are. And just like there's bad bankers, bad barbers, bad surgeons, bad whatever, every field, there's bad people. What do you do to get home to your family though, when you encounter them? What you don't do is escalate things, because you're not equipped. You're not going to win, unfortunately. Even if you win financially later, I personally don't think it's worth it. to put your life on the line at risk to be, you know, quote unquote, right. But let me say this, no one will harm my family or friends. No one. So I understand at some point, a man has to be a man, a woman has to be a woman. But I say that you have to pick your battles. You have to pick your battles and be wise, and make sure that when you encounter these guys, I like to say I call them clowns, because I mean the stuff I see on the internet, the things that I see when I speaking from I talk to, in my capacity, I train and talk to everyone from the Secret Service, the Marshals, the everyone under the Department of Justice arena. So that's DEA and everybody, right? We all tend to talk. But when I hear some of the things that when people get in the funny papers, you cannot believe it. Some of it is, I can't believe it. It's like, it's astonishing to me. But a common thread is we give them the go by doing certain things. What anyone that I'm speaking to that can hear me, what do you think are some of the things that we as citizens, especially African Americans, we do that puts us in the position to get dealt with wrong? Anybody?
Just appearance, just how we look. We not necessarily don't even have to be doing anything. We can just look a certain way and get profiled. If you're in a the neighborhood, maybe they feel that you're not supposed to be in, and if you just don't look like you belong, that's enough in a lot of cases.
Right. But I mean, is that to say that you have to change your attire or the color of your hair or how you walk? Is that fair?
Nah,
No, it's not fair, but sometimes in order to just comply and to make yourself feel safe, you just don't know. Because like with my son, he was in Minnesota going to school up there.
Okay.
And he was walking to class, and the next thing you know, all these white officers surrounded him, accusing him of robbing a store, and he wasn't even near the store, but he was told that he looked like this black man. And he said, well, can you show me a picture of him? And they got upset, and I was actually on the phone with them, just terrified.
Right.
And they actually showed a picture, and the young man was light skinned, no dreads. My son has dreads and dark skin. And the man turned around and said, all black people look alike.
Wow. What the
So
officer?
how was he? Yeah, the officer told him, and he said, you all look alike, so you can't tell. So he had to do everything he could to compose himself, just to hear that man tell him that. And I had to literally talk to him on the phone because I was in his earpiece. And I was like, look, just be calm. Don't, take offense. Just look at it as another obstacle and keep moving, because if you do anything crazy, it could get worse. So it was just terrifying even hearing him go through this.
So can I ask you a question? Have you or any of you given your sons, daughters, nephews, nieces, teens in the community the talk? Because I have. But and what did that consist of?
Well, my children are grown, but
Okay.
I used to work for a police department, and working there taught me a lot of how to tell them how to deal with people and how to deal with officers. And because unfortunately in the police department I worked in, some of the black officers were just as worse as some of the white officers were. So I had to, tell them how to keep your hands on the steering wheel. My made sure they have their ID and everything in a place where it's easy accessible. And I just tell them to keep calm, because you don't know how a person's dealing, having what type of day they're having, or anything. I mean, it's just so many attributes that you have to take in consideration dealing with another person, period.
Right. Right. You know, I that's something that I wanted to discuss too. How do you, or not so much how, but it is, it's it's obvious. It's unfortunate that we have to have that conversation with our youth, that we have to sit on the phone, as my mother did one time as well, when an officer is harassing me. But I'm not any different in that. I've gone through that. It's sad, but I had to have that conversation with my daughters. I have 2 daughters, one out of college, one in college, and then I have a son that I am consistently talking to. And he's a little younger, so he's 9, but you just never know. You never know. So I tell him the same thing. Remain calm, be respectful, make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. Make sure that if you come in contact with the police, that you don't do anything that is going to put yourself in harm's way. And well, even though it is sad, it's necessary, because you have to train your babies to come home. I want them home. I want them to make it. You know, like what you said, ma'am, about Black officers. So I transferred into Atlanta from the Los Angeles area, and that when I got down to Atlanta, the Trayvon Martin case was a big deal. You know, I don't know if people think of this outside of law enforcement. You might know, ma'am, because you've worked in the arena, you've worked closer to it. But I wonder if the common person thinks about how we, whoa, my chair, how we perceive situations like that. We being Black law enforcement. Can you imagine the quandary we are in? And I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not. But I'm just wondering, you know, how you think, and if people are aware of it. But we have to see this stuff happening and then still go out into the community, or in my case, deal with this element of crime, and we have to toe the line. You know, we have to do what's right always. But I mean, you're working for a system in a lot of ways that is built to apprehend and to corral your people. Can you imagine the quandary we are in as law enforcement officers, Black law enforcement officers? It is a difficult setting to be involved in if you're living right. And I do consider myself to be living right. I take every encounter I have with young Black men, because that's where I work. We don't have any females at USP Atlanta. It's a federal pen. And every interaction that I have, I try to show them a different angle of positivity. I am not there to punish them. I am there to guide them through the years that they have, and hopefully when they get out, they have something to emulate, someone to emulate. So it is that is something that weighs heavy on me. I can only speak for myself. That the community has gone from loving police to loving to hate police, and it's earned. It has been earned. It's not out of nowhere. There is a reason for it. There is definitely a reason for it, and I feel it. I feel the same way you guys feel. I'm sure. I'm positive, because I know when they're wrong. Like, I know the legalities of it, and I can be caught up in it. And I'll say that a million times. I can get the same stuff that everyone else gets, so I'm no different. Let me get off my high horse. You said something, man, that you said having your documents ready, like your license and stuff. But think of this too. So if you're pulled over and a police officer is walking up to your car, I even do this. This is something that I tell people to do. Turn your vehicle off. If you have your radio on, turn your radio down so you can be clear and hear them clearly. They can hear you clearly. And keep your hands eye level. I'm not saying put your hands up. I'm not saying put your hands outside of a window. I'm not saying show them your hands. I'm just saying keep them eye level. Keep them where that officer can see them at all times. And don't make any erratic movements, because it is true. White, Asian, Hispanic people are scared of young Black males. They are scared, intimidated, and sisters. It is true. I have seen it. I have witnessed it. So they come into any interaction with a level of fear off the rip. So I am not gonna act like it's not true. It is. I do believe, though, that your average officer is decent. I believe your average officer is. But I also believe that there are a lot of bad apples out there. A lot. I've encountered them.
Fred, let me say this. I want to jump in right quick. I think you touched on it a little bit, and somebody else touched on it as well. A lot of times when we get talking about situations like this, we like to say, we always put the race card in that black and white, and we see that every day. But I like to go back a little deeper than that, because it's not, somebody said, I think Victoria said, it's not just the white cops that are doing all this. You have African-American cops that are doing just the same thing. You may not be catching it all on camera, but they're doing the same thing. So why are they doing this? And what is their purpose? Well, when you look at people, and I heard folks as well talk about individuals that go in the military. These individuals, before they get in these positions, before they get this badge, before they get the clout, whatever the title, they already have issues going on with themselves. When they get into these places, it only enhances it. So it's the lady that she goes next door to get her hair done, and she's in the military, and she's in counseling, that she has PTSD and different things. And she's open and honest, and she said, I'm dealing with issues that I should have dealt with before I got in the military. She said, all the military did was make the issues that I had worse. She said, because I had issues, parent issues, mother issues, father issues before I went into the military. I didn't deal with those. So now I get in here, all of this anger that's built up, and I'm seeing different things. I'm watching kids get killed. I'm doing different things. So it's building this bitter root. It's actually watering and fertilizing this bitter root that's already there. So now you get out of the military, or you get out of the the law enforcement, and your mind is jacked up so bad because it was already jacked up before you got in there. So if you went into being a law enforcement officer and all you saw was your daddy beating your mother, slapping her, cussing at her, doing different things, that anger is built up. You want to take it out on your daddy, but you're scared of him when you're younger, and you got so much respect for him, even in the midst of all that, you're not going to do it or whatever, but you want to protect your mother. So all you see as protecting your mother in this point in time is taking this anger out on this Edwin that's sitting in the parking lot, you know what I'm saying? Or somebody else that's going along that's doing nothing because that, they haven't dealt with the things that need to be dealt with. It's trauma. It's a lot of trauma that's built up in individuals. And we talk about it on here all the time, how counseling is shunned in our African-American communities. What happens if all of these individuals get counseling, even during the process of being a law enforcement officer or military, or whatever it is you may be doing, it might be warehouse work or whatever. What happens when you start getting counseling? Then I believe things begin to get better. Now you have a safe place where you can get all of this stuff that's inside you out, because if you never get it out, it's going to remain there. And the older you get, the worse it's going to get. I just wanted to throw that out. You may have something you want to expound on top of that.
I think you're 100% right. I think personal experience is law enforcement is no different from any other job. And so if you're miserable or abused and all that stuff, it's going to show its face. It's going to rear its head. Another aspect of it is, though, that we don't put out, they're starting to talk about it now. It's the training, the way we are trained. When I was in Orange County Sheriff's Academy, it's a stress academy. So they impart stress on you to see how you react. But what they keep telling you is act as if every encounter is a potential for you to lose your life. So if you're coming into every encounter with the public with that mentality, you're on go time. Your hands on your weapon, and naturally, as you get older and you get more seasoned in your career, you learn, that's not true. I mean, obviously, right? You come across some 70-year-old woman coming from the grocery store who just failed to stop at a stop sign. She's not trying to kill you. She's just trying to do her thing and made a mistake. And that's where there's two things. There's called spirit of the law and the actual law. That's where a person who is of sound mind should be able to differentiate between and say, hey, I don't need to be keyed up on this. You know what I mean? At this encounter. And sometimes that's not happening because I'm seeing that. I'm seeing officers doing crazy stuff, and it's not right. It's not right. So, yeah, I think you're right, though, Kai. I think you're right.
Mm-hmm. I think my mama want to say something in a minute, but I want to say you said something a few minutes ago. You was asking a question. What are some of the things that we do that kind of trigger officers? And I've heard a few people answer. They kind of went another direction. I think what you were kind of looking for was sometimes people answer sarcastically. I had to learn in the barbershop. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. You can say something 3 or 4 different ways, and it's going to be taken, different ways depending on your vocals, depending on how it's projected.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times people, once they first get stopped, it's automatically like, what are you stopping me for? You already have anger and frustration in your voice. So all you're doing is just pulling them on into going into more questions and want to do more search and, them getting the attitude or whatever. So we have to remain calm. It's a saying that I live by. It says, don't allow people to pull you into their storm, pull them into your peace. So that means you got to keep peace within yourself at all times. All right, Mama, you go ahead. My mother wants to say something.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Yes.
All of this is good. Just the other day, one day this week, I got a ticket. First ticket I've gotten in a long for running a stop sign.
Okay.
Well, I really didn't see the stop sign. So I went back today after I came from church to make sure that that stop sign was there. The policeman, young policeman, came up and he already had an attitude. So I already knew that spirit. He was black. I already knew that spirit. So I have learned that you don't, as you said, Fred, don't fuel the fire.
Correct.
It doesn't make sense to give him a lot of attitude and a lot of lip, because it's not going to do anything but inflame the situation. Now, the Bible says, obey the laws of the land. It's just like, hey, stop means to stop. Okay, I got that. And if you don't stop, you're going to pay for it. So now I got to, ain't no telling how much ticket I've got to pay. Don't you know I'm sick about it?
Oh,
I'm very sick. I don't have no money to give nobody.
right.
Okay, the whole, you have to go back to the root. Kaya touched on it. You have to go back to the root of the whole situation, the whole world situation. Satan is still loose. So Satan hates. It stems from him, hatred.
Yep.
It all stems, the root of the matter is he's still loose and there's hatred in the land. The white man's, some of them, not all of them, objective is to cut off the black seed. Now we all know that. So when you see a young black man, I just like the young man jogging. You hear what I'm saying? Look at here. It's hatred. Trump, and I'm not afraid to say it. Trump, it was always has been there, but he took the lid off. And look at what's going on. Look at back in the olden days, you would have a bunch of Ku Klux Klan that get drunk whenever, especially on the weekend, and they decide they want to go find a black man and hang him. Come on now. That stems from a bitter root straight from hell of hatred. So we have to realize that there are children are being, I raised my girls without their father, but it starts at home. You got to talk to your children. You got to tell them how to conduct themselves. And you got so many young black men that have had no training, don't know how, they don't even know how to hold a decent conversation with all of this vulgarity coming out of their mouth. These are spirits that are being fed. And whether you believe it or not, the world has been overtaken with more and more and more spirits. You think about when you have earthquakes, and that's going on. The Bible, these are signs. Earthquakes in diverse places. You got all the weather pattern. I had the heat is on right now, but I had to turn the air on yesterday. All of this stuff is going on, and it is coming from the depth of hell. More demons are being released out of hell, and they're looking for a body to live in. So it fuels everything that is already wrong. But look at here, God said that he's a God of this whole universe. He sits high and look low. I think about all the people that the black have been killed by Ku Klux Klan. I think about that, but they haven't gotten away. They just got by, because God said, I'm a God that sits high and look low. I behold the good and the evil, and vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and I'm going to repay every man according to what his work shall be. But the root of the matter is hatred. And we have to know, look here, if the black man will come together and be one, if we could agree on loving each other and protecting each other, loving everybody, you kill Satan with love and kindness. This generation don't even know how to love. They don't know how to respect. They don't know how to honor. And that doesn't do anything but make things worse. For your own people, it makes things worse. We have to come to the knowledge that, look here, I wish Adam would get in place where he's supposed to be. He's the head. Man is the head of woman. And he's supposed to be teaching a young man, black, white, blue, whatever color, how to be a man, how to respect his wife, how to respect women, period. That is something that is absent in the land today. And God is not pleased. Yes, obey the laws of the land. But you still got to obey God, and God ain't finna change. So we should learn how not to fuel the fire, kill hatred with kindness. Like Kaya said, when it's a turmoil going on, you have to have enough wisdom and knowledge and understanding enough. You got to have Jesus to do that, to pull that hatred and that bitterness into your flow of kindness, into your goodness, overcoming bad with evil. I pray for everybody that's on this earth. Lord, touch the hearts of men. Change their hearts. Cause them to come. That's what's wrong right now. Nobody is loving Jesus. The more the Lord bless us, the worse we get. We don't love each other like we supposed. We don't love God first. And we don't love each other. Hatred can be overcome with love if we all come together. A divided house cannot stand. And as a Black race of people, we are a divided house. How you gonna stand? No, every police officer is not bad. But you got police officers that belong to the Ku Klux Klan. They sit behind the desk in the bank. When you go to the bank, look here, I know where I live. They had a book for the Black and a book for the white. You hear what I'm saying? This is the truth right here where I live. Y'all interest would be, look here, they take an arm and a leg and ask you about your grandfolks that's dead. They want theirs too. You see what I'm saying? It's all hatred. It's all trying to destroy. Ain't no master race. There is no master race. If there's one race, and the title of it is Jesus. I thank you. My daughter holding her head down.
No, that was well said. Well said.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that our biggest issue as a people is our inability to come together.
Right.
With that being, and to work as a unit to for our betterment. I do not believe, though, that Black men in its entirety are doing bad. I see out there we are doing phenomenal things.
Sure.
Of course, there are people, individuals that aren't taking care of this and that, but largely, man, I see a lot of good in us, even when we're misguided. Even the young men who are serving, 30 to life, I see a lot of good in them. They have made some poor decisions, then unfortunately they are in the position that they're in, but a lot of them are moving in a positive direction. Some aren't, some won't, some have no desire to do good, unfortunately, but that's in society. But all isn't bleak. There is a lot of good. There's a lot of good. I would like to believe that that things like this, grassroots conversations between different generations, is what we need. We need to get back to focusing on us. We need to, as Black men, if we see our kids out there or any child out there acting a fool, or as my grandmother would say, cutting a fool, if we see that, we should be in a position to say something. I'm not saying go and doing like we used to do. Like I used to get whoopings from neighbors, but obviously times have changed. But there's nothing wrong with, I have done it, stopping a young man respectfully and saying, hey, bruh, that's not what we do. Or if I see a young lady doing something out of character, hey, young lady, you're far too beautiful a girl to be doing that, you know, and moving on. And, you know, I'm not saying, you know, go and scold them, but let them know that you care. And usually you will get a decent reaction. I have. Sometimes I've gotten the, you know, mind your business. And I'm like, you got that, you know. And sometimes they'll be future clients, unfortunately. But, you know, I can say this with the utmost certainty that I am alarmed, fearful for our kids, because I you know, they're fearless, and their ability to slow down a situation and not act brashly and not jump to conclusions, or when something goes south, their ability to pick their way through that problem and come out positive isn't there, because their communication skills aren't there. A lot of us, you know, just the times, everybody's on these phones. They don't talk, you know, they're pecking away. So their communication skills aren't always there. So I am worried, but I have not given up on them. I will continue to talk to kids until my last dying breath, because I believe in us, man. I know our abilities. We're such a beautiful people, such a beautiful people. So, you know.
You know, I think all of that starts at home. Like, the reason they can't get through situations, and I would say problem solving, they don't have problem solving skills, is
Right.
because they've never had to solve a problem. You know, since they've been here, the generation of individuals that have kids now that are teenagers or younger, maybe 20, 21 or younger, they had in their mindset when they had a child that their child was not going to miss out on the things that they didn't have, or they knew that their parents, and I'm talking about parents that are 30, 40 years old, late 30s, their parents couldn't give them everything that they wanted because they couldn't afford it. So now they've always said to themselves, when I have kids, my child ain't gonna have to work hard for this. So the kids are getting whatever they want. So you look at 5 and 6 year old, they have iPhone 12. So why do you need all of that? You know,
right.
what is your purpose for having all of that? You know, and there's nothing wrong with technology, but now you're giving them technology, and that's raising them. So everything they ask for, they gotta have. An excuse that I hear a lot of parents using is because, well, I don't want them to go to school and get bullied. I've heard that from some of my clients. Now they say it's like you're always in a race, because if the trend of the shoes have changed and you send them to school with a certain kind of shoe, they're going to get bullied. You know,
right.
and that's going to cause more issues. So they figure, let me just keep up with the trend, what's going on. I'll listen to what the other kids are saying, listen to what they come home and say, and then I'll just try to keep them there so I can keep them blended in versus having them stick out. So I believe all of it starts with all of the bad behavior I was talking about, you know, people going in law enforcement, different things. All of it started at home with parenting. It still goes back to the beginning and the foundation. There has to be a solid foundation. And somewhere along the way, you have to raise your kids. You can't allow your kids to raise themselves, you know, or do whatever they want to do. And I think that's where we are now. But The Bible says nothing new under the sun. So everything is going to circle back around. We get through this generation and they understand that this ain't working. You know, somebody's going to come back sooner or later and say, you know what? Let me bring this old structure that my grandparents put in me, because I don't want my kids, like you said, to end up a client of yours
Right.
in the pen at 16, 17 years old. I don't want that to happen. So I got to make some changes in the beginning.
You know, let me just say this. I want you guys, if you don't take anything else from this conversation, I want you to ponder this even after our discussion, okay? I'm sure people have thought this, but I don't know this to be true. I can't point out one specific instance where this is tangible or where this occurred, but I know from situations that I've observed that the potential is for this to happen. So the reason I am so serious about what we're talking about, how to interact with the police, is because I feel that in today's social climate, with the, you know, Make America Great Trump garbage and the Republican Party being the way it has become, and just white nationalism being on the uptick, I feel that it is very likely that there are people, citizens out there, white citizens, that will goat a youngster, and that white citizen does not have to be law enforcement, because there's an open carry here. And there's that statute that says if they feel intimidated or at risk, that they can use deadly force, right? So I feel that the potential is a white person could trigger a Black person into a situation to goad them so that they could use deadly force and exercise that power that they have been dying to use. I can't say that I've seen that, but I've seen trace elements of it in law enforcement with coworkers. I've seen it. I've been pushed by people in you know, at the grocery store, and just period, just being a Black man. And I'm sure other people on this conversation has, you know, probably seen some things. But if we don't start having these conversations with our youth at great length and detail, the potential is that they will fall victim. And those courts, once you get in those courts, in that court system, it is not made for you to win. It is not for us. Every once in a while we do, but it is not for us. So my goal is to stop them before they get involved in it. Because once you're in it, it's too late. It's not that it's too late, but it's pretty late in the game. So the goal should be keep accountability of these youngsters. Tire them out if you have to. Get them involved in so many different things that they don't ever have to worry about these things that we're talking about. Because if they're having those interactions with the police consistently, something's wrong. You know, we have failed in some way, shape, or form. And I am no different. So I always am checking myself, and, you know, just to make sure that I'm putting my son, my daughters, you know, my cousins, people in the right line. Because if you're moving away from that positivity and you're flowing into negativity, you know, you're going to get a negative result. So think on that. You know, I challenge each and every person out there, think on what I'm saying. It's relevant. If you look at it, it's very relevant. Anybody have anything on that?
We got a question on the floor, Brittany. But one thing I want to say, you said, yeah, make sure that we're filling them with that. I believe it has to be a balance. You know, you can't have your child so one-sided, where all they know is one thing, because when they do get to a place where they do have more freedom, they're going to go experience things. They're going to go, and there's nothing wrong with that, because experience is the best teacher. But sometimes you have to, you got to make sure they're balanced at home. You have to take yourself out of yourself and say, okay, what is it that I want to put into them, so that when they get 18, they're equipped to go sit and talk with anybody. You know what I'm saying? They're equipped to go handle business. They're equipped. And I think we fail at that as, you know, being adults, raising, whether it's niece, nephew, child, or whatever. So, and I'm gonna say this and let Brittany go. There's a young man. This guy, I think he's number 3 in the state, plays basketball very well, very well. So he, the other day, I looking on the news, he accepted in George Mason College for he's a 12th grade or whatever. Never been in any trouble or anything, you know, and they accepted him already. He had so many offers, he had to figure out where he was going. Now, all of a sudden, you look on the news and stuff, him and another guy, he was 17, the other one was 18. They're in jail for committing murder. You know, and it's like, but all you did was play basketball all your life. And that's all his parents have invested into. They hadn't invested, I'm talking about, into nothing else concerning him that I've seen. Wow. Other than that. And my thing is, his brother was saying, well, they mischarged and whatever. And I said, regardless if they charge, I mean, if he did it or not, your name is affiliated with that. So now all of these scholarships, everything that was handed to you, they've taken them. And as soon as it went out, this college said this scholarship had been revoked and he will no longer be affiliated with our school. He hadn't even made it there. In 12th grade, wow. Still got, what, a semester to go. So it's very important that kids are well-rounded, you know, wow. Giving them the best of both worlds, definitely having a foundation, keeping God in and keeping them, you know, in church, and but more so, not even just church, giving them an understanding of who God is and that foundation, but then building on top of that, the sports, the interaction with people, social skills, you know what I'm saying? Knowing how to do problem solving skills, send them to go get something that ain't there and make them figure it out, you know. They don't do that anymore. But that's all I want to say. Miss Brittany, go ahead. I see your hand. Did you want to comment anything on that, Fred?
No. You're dead on. I'd like to hear what Miss Brittany has.
Okay.
Okay, so can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. I have a little bit of a spotty internet connection, so I apologize in advance. So my thing is, my husband, Edwin, was the one that just told his story at the very beginning. And we want to have children one day. And we talk about this quite a bit, of some of the fears that I would have as a mother, because I know I'm a very nurturing person. And when you see things that happen to our Black boys and girls, and it really makes you nervous. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of ask is, I don't know if you all were familiar with, it was maybe a year or so ago, maybe a couple of years ago, but there was someone, there was a Black gentleman that was working with someone that had special needs, or I don't know if they were autistic or something. And the person had like a little breakdown or something. And forgive me if I'm not using the correct terminology, but he was on the ground trying to calm the patient, calm his client. Okay. And he was talking everything out, and they still shot him. Mm-hmm. And so then I think about what my husband just said, the incident that happened. He had just dropped me off. We were dating at the time. And he had just dropped me off when all that happened to him, and a little bit more about that area, not to say it was the same cops or the police officers or whatnot, but when Dylan Roof, the terrorist, the white terrorist that went in and killed 9 Black people at down in Charleston, they found him in Shelby, North Carolina. And they sent for him to get they sent the police officer to get Burger King for him. Okay, they didn't take him by the restaurant, but they sent to get Burger King for him. He was able to sit through Bible study. Now get this, in the house of God. Now, how atrocious is that? You sitting in the house of God with biblical, good people, and you sitting there and you go through the service with them. I know the Bible says, will a man rob God? But I never thought I'd see the day where somebody would sit through service and then kill him. Now that's just a demon, as Mama Joe would say, that's just a demon from the pits.
Right.
So, to sit through the service and to do that, and then you get talking about he hadn't ate in a long time, but little Tyrone might be down the street, might steal some bread and have 6 carloads of cops because he ain't ate and his family ain't ate in days. And so it's just the systemic racism. And I know,
Right.
I always talk about this. Race is a social construct, right? It's constructed to keep us pitted against each other. However, when I'm living in this Black skin and I know and see, like what Mama Joe said, how, my mom talked about how they had to walk and the bus would go past them and things like that. It's the systemic racism that's rooted and embedded within the system. And systemic racism, it don't care who it utilizes. So it can utilize people that look just like me, just like most of us on this call here. That's how it could be where it's a Black police officer that's sometimes worse than the white police officers or anybody else. It's because white supremacy and systemic racism doesn't care who it uses. It's a tool. It's a demon to divide us from being who we need to be, from being, like Mama Joe said, to be coming together. So I want to know, like, how do you, it makes me angry and it makes me upset that one day I could have a son or a daughter, right? Because our Black women a lot of times get forgotten about too, right?
Right.
We have the young lady at, I can't think of her name, Jefferson, and then Sandra Bland. We have our Black ladies that are out here that are coming up missing, dead after interactions. And it's heartbreaking to see this as happening to our people. And trying to get down to the root of it is, how can somebody get Burger King after they done sat there and murdered 9 people? And I understand that we should hold ourselves accordingly and not, fight fire with fire. But sometimes that just gets you mad. It's because you see this, like, he was able to walk away. He was alive. He didn't commit suicide. He fled to Shelby, North Carolina, which just happened to be the same incident of where my husband, had his incident that happened to him. He fled there and he got a burger out of it. And these people sat through service and they died. 9 people murdered them. And they was in there praying and praising God, but got killed. And I don't understand how, that is, I don't understand how that works, right? We can do everything. We can't run in a neighborhood without getting shot. We can't we can't go in a park nowhere without getting hunted down and shot. We can't even sleep in our own house. Breonna Taylor got murdered in her own house. She was in there sleeping. We can't do nothing without being over policed. And it makes me angry because I want to bring my sons and daughters up in a world that they don't have to worry about this. I don't want to have to give my kids a talk because everybody don't have to do that. Like, I don't want to have to do that. Like, if we give them a talk, that means everybody should give a talk, white, Black, whatever race that you are, because there's something going on. But when I have to give a talk to my kids and somebody else that's a different race doesn't have to give a talk to their kids, like, it's frustrating. So how do you deal with that when we do the right things, when we comply, when we do whatever, and then we still get shot at, mistreated, abused? Like Khalif Browder, I think that was the brother that they accused him of stealing or something, and then he wound up dead he was in Rikers Island, I think, like where they put the hardcore, criminals. And they put him in there for something minor that I don't even know if he did it or not. And then he committed suicide, I believe. So, I mean, what do you do when you've done what you can do? And like Trayvon Martin, you mentioned him, when that footage came out, Trayvon Martin, he ran away. I thought police officers were trained that if the threat was coming towards you, that's when you use your deadly force. But if you're running away, why are you chasing him? And the man told him on the 911 call, don't chase him. And he chased him anyway. And then the young man ends up dead. And why is it that when African-American boys and girls, we make a mistake and that results in death? And then I will see some of the most nastiest comments about people saying, well, they should have complied and this never would have happened. but everybody makes a mistake.
Right.
If I'm afraid and I'm running away from you, why are you going to chase me and then shoot me down and kill me? Like, I thought that if you are coming towards me, then that justifies, that, but I'm running away from you. So is it that big of a deal to do that? Like with Trayvon Martin, and when I'm thinking about that, and in many other cases, it's just disheartening. So what do you do when you've done everything that you're supposed to do, and then you still end up in these sticky situations, right? Because I know, and I really have respected you, sir, for everything that you have said, and I can only imagine what it's like to be in your profession. And I commend you for, doing the good work, right? And I know sometimes when you hear stories like these, it can be hard, right? Because you know that, hey, I'm a Black man too. I go through these things too. So I appreciate you for, coming and sharing your story with us. But I also, I just want to know, like, from your perspective too, sir, like, what do we do when we've done the right thing?
So I share your frustration. So much so that's why I take as many opportunities as I can to do things like this, to do open forums, to do town halls, to do community outreach where you actually go into communities and talk to people in their home settings, in their town halls, in their community rooms, in classrooms, in prisons, in any forum or area we can. The best thing we can do is first be a good citizen, be a Christian, in my opinion. Be stand up when everybody else is doing, dirt, you be the right. But there's no answer that can be given that will give you solace or peace when the key is the reality is that people are bad, and some people are bad. I'm sorry, some people are bad. Some people make mistakes. These mistakes are costly to us, but that has been through time. As Kaya's mom said, racism has not slowed. It has just morphed. It is still the same thing that, the slave master going and chasing down and killing Black men and women has just changed to white police officers or white citizens, which that has not changed. So one thing I do try to put out there is we need more people that look like you and I in this profession. It's one thing to know something is wrong, right? And turn your back on it. But it's something to know something is wrong and run at it and try to change it. So they say that your average person, when gunshots occur, flee. But there's a small percentage of people, when that gunshot goes off, we run towards the shooting because it's my job. So I challenge people. I challenge us as citizens. Help me, help yourself, help your kids, help your community by being a part of it, of the problem, fixing the problem. If you know someone has the aptitude to govern, push them in that direction. So if you know someone has the aptitude or the desire to be law enforcement and they're credible, push them. Don't tell them, that's a white man's. I've heard that. That is the craziest thing. Why would we not want to police ourselves? Why would we not want to invest in our own communities? Instead of having others do it, why wouldn't we? We know our communities better than anyone. So I challenge us, don't be just a part of it. Don't just be omniscient and look at it from afar and judge it. And I'm not speaking to you, ma'am. I'm saying in general. I'm saying we as people, myself included, we need to be the change. We can't change. I don't think I will ever be able to change a racist person's views or an evil person's views per se. But I can affect someone. It's a good likelihood that I may be able to affect someone who's on the fence and that looks like me and they see themselves in me. And I don't know that that's common anymore. I don't hear in hip hop, in magazines, in movies, I don't hear people glorifying police, and rightfully so. There's a lot of bad ones. But when will there come a day where someone will say, man, we had better start getting on these forces because everybody else is, and they're policing us, and they're doing a horrible job at it. So I challenge people. Go be
That's real good. I'm sorry, that's real good. That's real good. I got a two questions that we're gonna wrap it up shortly. The first is Brittany was just asking, that her and her husband are planning on having kids in the future. And you say you have a 9-year-old and you talk to him as much as you can. When should they start talking to them about all of this? When is the right age, and how should that conversation open up? Should it go straight into the racism that's they're going to deal with, or how when you begin to start having that conversation with Freddie, how can you give us a briefing on how that went and what age was he?
I don't know the age per se, but I think I began having a more serious conversation when my son was able to ask me questions. So I know when he saw the Freddie Gray, saw me looking at that trial or other trials, I tend to follow the trials pretty deeply. And I should not as much, but I guess I just do because I just hate to see us dying like that. But when my son was able to ask me questions, then I start having deeper conversation. But I always would tell him and remind my son to be respectful in any form, like any other parent, And so I would say, your child. If your child is advanced, or if he's or she is not advanced and is average, or maybe a little more immature, you might not have a deep conversation. You would just kind of prod and poke a little bit and make sure that they, it's all age appropriate. So you kind of got to know your kid. But definitely, I understand any parent who has those issues with maybe questioning having a child, because I understand it. I fear for my son, and I feel fear for everyone's, so that's why I do what I do. But that's probably what I would do.
That's good. That's good. I'm gonna open it up for questions in a few minutes. We're almost done. We're running out of time. My last thing is, you talked about surviving encounters with law enforcement, and we kind of stopped on that one. Do you have, I know you can't go into all of them, but do you have some more that you want to kind of read down the list or give out for us to have?
Yeah, well, I'll do it like a recap. I'll just say, because believe it or not, we touched on it, pretty much all of it. Each person gave in their summation some example of what I kind of follow. So, but my thing is, what I would tell people is, I'll just kind of go down the line. Be law abiding, which I spoke of, up front. And that goes as clear as just do what they ask, as long as what they're asking does not violate your rights or make you uncomfortable. And when I say uncomfortable, I don't mean like, uncomfortable because it's cold or hot. I'm saying like uncomfortable, if it's wrong, you'll know, your body will tell you. So, and then, you might ask for a supervisor, things of that nature. But I'll tell you this too. When you encounter the police, this is something I was going to say earlier, and it skipped my mind. Someone said, make sure that you're not rude, and you don't start off the conversation in a negative manner. But I'm going to tell you something. When you encounter the police, they say this: people do not listen. Listen to me. Hear me. Stop talking so much. It does not help you. Less is better. Answer their questions and get to step and get to where you're going. Stop talking so much, people. I promise you, it does not help you. Document everything. Make sure that you're of level head and mind. If they did something that is erroneous or felonious or wrong, write that down right after the encounter. Contact a lawyer. Contact a law enforcement officer. Get with Kaya. Have her get with me. And I'm not saying for every ticket now. But if something severe occurs, call her. And have her call me, and I'll give her, the best advice that I can give. Make sure, like you said earlier, make sure you have all your information, if you're pulled over, available. Keep your hands clear. Don't make any sudden movements. And try to relax. Try to, within reason, try to be as calm as you can, because you being nervous makes that officer nervous. And if they're already scared of Black people, that just raises and heightens tension. So, it's hard to do, but, within reason, try to be as calm as you can. And make sure, try to be positive, especially in front of kids, especially in front of your community. Because, like, as always, two wrongs do not make a right. So if they're acting like clowns, that doesn't mean that you need to be that. You be the shining example of right, and let them be wrong, because somebody's filming. All right. And I'll end it with this. Make sure to minimize your losses. So if that officer catches you and you run a red light, or like, unfortunately, like your mom said, she didn't see the stop sign, but at least your mom, I would imagine, was positive and wasn't, flip it with that person, with that officer. So even though he was acting like a clown, your mom ran ran the stop sign. She got a ticket for it. And hopefully, there's some way to get out of it. But she didn't get other stuff. Because if you agitate that officer further, I know officers who will try to look for every nook and cranny to find more. And then it'll get worse and worse. So I just say, try to minimize the whole, negativity thing. So, real quick, thank you guys, man. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you. I'm sorry if I was long-winded.
No, it was good. It was very purposeful. We really enjoyed it. Briefly, I want to open the floor up. If anyone else have any questions or comments, definitely don't want to keep you on much longer. But Amy, it's definitely good to see you on here. It's been a while. Anyone have anything they want to say? Any more questions for Fred? Go ahead.
I do. No more questions for him. But I would just like to say this, Amy, you were talking about maybe having a baby in the future.
Mhm.
I
That was
want to say
Brittany.
to
That was
Brittany, I'm sorry. To all of you, even the children that are here, family, I know it's a hustle and a bustle. Everybody's trying to, you gotta work, you gotta provide, all of this kind of stuff. But if you could sit with families, children, where children are, mom and dad, or just even mom by herself, if you can set aside one day a week for everybody to come to the table, because see, when I was being raised, we
Right.
ate together. We sat down, mama, daddy, and all the children, we sat down and we ate together. That's the time to talk, reflect, find out what's going on with your children. And I've always tried to even tell my girls, I don't care what it is, you can talk to me, you can ask me anything you want to ask me. That togetherness, and teach them about Jesus. If you can look at here, mom, dad, whomever, you can give your life to Christ and bring your whole family. One prophet said, me and my house gonna serve the Lord. If you can come under the blood, if you can get saved and hear God, God will protect you from a lot of this stuff that's going on, because Satan comes to rob, steal, and to destroy, and he don't care who. So, but if you can teach your children, listen here, it is a good thing. The Bible says, seek the old path. It's a good thing to have your children to say, to respect you, mom and dad, and any other adult person. Yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. Yes, sir. And yeah, I mean, what's wrong? These kids have no respect for their own parents. And another thing is, you're not supposed to give your child everything that they ask for. Kaya was talking about that. I didn't do that with them. If I said, no, you can't have it, I mean, you cannot have it. You've got to instill responsibility in them, respect in them, to honor your father and your mother. The Bible, that's the only commandment with the promise that your days might be long upon the land. So you have to ask yourself, in every home on this earth, are you in touch with Jesus? Are you praying? Prayer changes things. When your children leave home, you need to bless them. You need to anoint them, that they be covered under the blood of Jesus. Even if you have not received the Holy Ghost yet, you ought to know how to pray, because what comes out of your mouth is either blessings or cursing. So know that, look here, all things are possible with Jesus. We have to ask Jesus to keep our children, because going to school is dangerous, and that should not be. Satan will not stop until Jesus busts the clouds. Hatred ain't gonna go away until Jesus busts the clouds. Know this. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Wilson, for taking out the time to just discuss a lot of the situations, because a lot of us, being African American, we don't have that opportunity to talk to officers like this. So I just want to say thank you. And it's good to know that you're out there trying to change the narrative. So knowing that, you know, we have somebody that's willing to change the narrative, it makes other people want to do the same thing. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that. That statement makes 20 years of work worth it, you know. So just know, man, we are out there. I am not alone. I promise you. I work with a lot of good people. So just thank you. I appreciate that statement more than you know.
Any more questions? If not, Fred, we've really enjoyed this. I thank you for coming through. You know, thank you for spending, I know it's your family day, your family time. You decided to spend a few days with us. We've been talking about it for a while, but we finally got you here, and it was very informative. And I think it's something that we could take and use a little later on as well, you know, just on our journey. So We definitely appreciate that. If there's no more questions, I'm going to close in prayer and we're going to get on out of here. Remember, we're here every Sunday evening, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So without further ado, I'm going to go before the throne of grace. God, we thank you for this evening. Thank you for each person that's assembled here, God. We ask you to bless and touch their minds, God. Open up their minds so that they can take this information that has been imparted, take it back with them, sit down, God, and allow it to begin to do the work, allow it to shift our mindsets so that we can see things from a different angle and know that it's not always someone else. Sometimes it's us, God. Help us to do that self-evaluation so that we don't continue to keep going down the same path. We thank you for life, health, and strength. We ask you if there's any sin among us, forgive us right now, and we'll be so careful to give you the praise, give you honor, give you glory that is due unto your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Guys, remember, as always, I love you all,
Amen.
and there is nothing that you can do about it. Take care. Y'all be blessed. We'll see you next Sunday. Good night.
Bye. Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Take care.
All
Thank you.
righty.